funded through the new one. Same plan that we had before, which is funded. And then the Oak Hills, the interconnected Oak Hills water supply port is just it's a supplementary supply that can, it will be located behind the Randolph Brooks Railroad Credit Union on 30, that'll County Road 301 back there. And it will be able to supply both of the pressure planes in town, the north side and the south side. Both pressure planes can benefit from that connection should it sitting in that water. It won't be used all the time, but more of a supplementary issue. And again, there's the hospital ground storage tank. You can see the rust on the side of that tank. And it just needs to be repainted and rehabbed. Simple as that. The last project that I will talk about is the city was awarded a grant with from TDA and the Texas CDBG funding program to increase or replace the water line on 5th Street from D Street all the way to ultimately connect to that hospital site on 97. And so that's a grant. The grant is approximately $275,000, and we plan to start design on that early spring and go to construction this summer.
What's your completion time?
Completion will be, it's probably a 5 or 6 month project, so more towards the end of the year to complete.
Where are you on from D Street to where they're currently working? Because I know they started isn't the project started where you started on D Street and it's gone down a few blocks?
They're finished with that part there. We're just going to tie in to what they did at D Street and go towards the hospital. What that project will do, we'll be able to allow the hospital well, which is our biggest producing well, to provide more downtown and have better supply downtown.
If you can get the lights turned on, I'm sure there's some questions.
Sure.
Okay, so just recapping, out of all of our wells, we do have one still completely down,
No, yes, one is down. Yes, ma'am.
and the completion date,
What did you
somewhere,
say?
I'm going back to page 1.
Oh,
Let's just start on that one. Construction package number 1.
the well isn't in that. It's on that site, but it's not part of that package. That particular construction package is very near completion.
Well, I know myself and probably all the councilmen up here, council members, get the complaints of low water pressure, dirty water. Bottom line, when can it get better?
Well, it depends on a couple factors. One being the approval of our preliminary engineering report. We have to finish our design. Like I said, we're kind of running both tracks parallel. We plan to start, I think, on that first screen. We plan to start construction in the fall, and we're going to push as fast as hard as we can to get that bumped up. We understand that summer's coming, and we need to get that done. But we're going through the process with the USDA, and so we feel like we've got a pretty good handle on them, but it's not always as quick as we would like for it to move.
I've got a question.
Yes,
You know, they're replacing all the meters, correct?
yes,
But they're not putting the boxes in back the way they were squared up. Some they're leaving leaning, open, when people mowing their lawns, it tilts. That I've had complaints about leakage from them. And back again, you're saying that the backflow or whatever, you know, we never notified the citizens or anything, so that you're gonna have to put the backflow prevention after the meters, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, we're getting a lot of different complaints about that too, that they're busting the lines and stuff, so.
Who ultimately inspects the work that the contractors are doing?
It's a little bit of a joint effort. City staff, one of the.
They're supposed to have a licensed inspector
They do.
working on site all the time.
They have a licensed plumber.
But who's okaying that? You know what I'm saying? That's why they're supposed to be paying them, or are they paying someone to actually do it, a licensed plumber that's there every day to make sure that whatever meter they're changing out, he's looking at it? Because
Yes, he works for
if
the.
he's a licensed person, if I was that person, I wouldn't let that go by. They'd have to make sure to put it in square and everything else for the safety of the individual. Say you buy a brand new zero turn or whatever, that thing leans
Understand?
and hit, and the reason I'm saying, that happened to me too.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, we,
And
to answer the plumber question, he's basically, he contracts with the contractor, the installer. So, yes, he's responsible, at the end of the day, for making sure that those are installed correctly.
Because I personally was, when they did mine, he wasn't there.
Mine either. Right. And I think, again, the council is getting a lot of complaints about those, the new meters, the installation and the new meters in general. And then that situation right there,
Right.
that we didn't notify.
Foresee.
Yeah, we didn't foresee, we didn't notify, customers, and a lot of people have had problems with that right there.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, I understand, and it took us a minute to figure out that was the case. It wasn't anything that we'd encountered before either, and, but that's the only thing that really makes sense that could be the issue, that we've gone through, air getting trapped in lines and, taking the meters out too hard, being too aggressive, taking the meters out and disturbing that older piping. I don't think that's it. I think it's just an issue of pressure buildup. And again, it's something that we didn't foresee.
Yeah, but everybody knows that if you're a plumber, that when you shut off the water and change out the meter, you've got to open your faucets summers. Because now the pressure's gonna blow out the gaskets from everything.
Right.
And they're not doing that.
Do we have a rough idea how many people have complained to the city about theirs doing this? I know I've gotten a couple.
I have like 2 or 3 a day sometimes complaining about the pressure in their homes.
I asked Andrew that question last week, and she told me they've gotten out of the whole city 30 addresses or 30 complaints now. The complaints may pile up on
Come
each
to
other.
us.
Right. But the number they told me was 30, and so it certainly could be more.
And then there's those of us that did not complain, and we just fix it.
Right. So your house personally had a problem, or?
Just for the toilets and stuff, and blow out the gaskets. They didn't open up the faucets, for the pressure, release the pressure.
And one thing that we did find out is that the contractor was required to hang hangers on doors, right? Like a pre-notification deal. And what we found out is that they were hanging the hanger, but essentially turning right around
And doing it.
right then.
Yes.
So you're supposed to have 48 hours advance notice to give anybody time to, turn on a hose bib on the side of the house or whatever.
And they don't care that it's a business either, because
Right.
our business, they were gonna do it right there, and Stefano was there. He said, hold on, did anybody have chemicals in their hair or whatever? I said, no, they're gonna do it right now. It's like 10 ladies getting their hair done.
Well, I'm thinking that what it sounds like, because the city hasn't gone through this before, we made errors.
Mhm.
We made some mistakes, and,
It's not our mistakes, it's their mistakes, because that's what they do.
yeah, and so we're getting the brunt of it, so that's why we were asking for an update on the wells, an update on all of this, because for months, we've been getting complaints about different issues. So with the meters being basically, are they at a standstill right now?
Yes, they're pulled out until they get funding back.
Okay. Mrs. Martinez? ask you
Yes.
a question?
Yes, ma'am.
When someone knocks on my door at 9:30 at night, if their pressure is like 180 in their home, I'm very concerned,
Absolutely.
okay?
Sure.
So, I'm needing an explanation of why we are having, you know, these major issues with the installation of the new meters.
Mhm.
And also, what is being done to correct them. I met with Henrietta, and I met with Mr. Andres, he's a water
Right.
guy, okay? And he explained to me about these valves that were put in that need to be removed, okay? And my question is, was a hydrologist involved before installation of meters to advise of any problems that may arise? I mean, you know, is someone, who hired these contractors to do that? Y'all did?
Yeah, we put the bids together and we reviewed the bids and, the contract was awarded to the lowest bidder, which is a requirement of USDA.
Because when they came to my house, my husband and I both stood out there and watched them, and there was only one guy doing the work. Then they needed some other parts, so the other guy went to McCoy's or somewhere to get another part that needed to be put there. And my husband has a gauge, and he measured ours also, and it was like 120.
What's the
After,
norm of that?
it's 80 to 80, I believe it's 80 because I did a lot of research on internet. And the way I understand it's supposed to be like 80. It shouldn't be higher than that.
Right. It should be
And a
hard.
lot of these people, what I'm concerned about, a lot of these people are older people,
Mhm.
and they live in older homes. They don't have brand new homes. And, you know, they don't know about it. And
Right.
what if something goes wrong? I mean, the city is gonna be liable for it. So, another question is, who's going to be responsible to fix all of this? Because I don't think the city should be responsible in removing supposedly these check valves that have to be removed, as far as that's what Henrietta said when she met with whoever, that was a solution.
We're not gonna remove them. It's a requirement of the TCEQ. They have to be in there to protect the rest of the water system
Okay,
from anything being pushed back into the system.
so how are we gonna solve the problems that, I mean, you know, what are we gonna do about the problems with the people in their homes?
Yeah, those 30 that you said have complained, have we done anything for them?
They, as far as I know, the city has sent crews out to fix, you know, maybe if there was a leak in the yard, in that piping in the yard, the city crews have fixed that. I don't know about anything that's going on inside the house. I do know.
That's the city, that's us. The contractor's not responsible to fix anything?
The contractor, all he does, he replaces the meter. And if he's not doing anything wrong to replace the meter, then I'm not sure he's responsible.
He's doing everything wrong.
He is doing
They're
something wrong.
they're not opening the valves, that's why everything's,
That's why there's
everything's
the problems.
happening. They're not doing the correct process.
I
You
don't-
follow what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but that issue isn't the contractor's issue.
Oh, you're talking about the backflow?
And I really think that's causing a lot of the problems with the backflow.
There's also another complication in that I don't believe that the USDA allows money to be spent on the customer side of the system unless they're in an easement and it's part of the distribution system.
Well, I don't believe that should be correct if they're the ones causing the problem.
May I make a recommendation that when Mrs. Turner is back, that the council member, whoever you would like to choose, sit down with her and with M&S and see if there's some solutions or some recommendations that can be brought back to the council?
Absolutely.
Well, the way I understood from Henrietta, she had met with somebody, and I don't know if she met with you or Tom or whoever, but that the solution would be to go back and remove these check valves from these meters. And that was supposed to have been, that was supposed to be the solution. That's what I understood from her.
She and I,
They need to check.
Hold on, Mr.
She and I talked about that, as an approach originally, but then, and probably, I guess since she talked to you, it was determined that it's not a really effective use of city funds to go back, because it would have to be the city that does it, to go back and take all those valves out. There's 2,000 of them that have been installed.
Yes, that's what it, statute quoted,
Right.
2,000.
And I say 2,000, plus or minus, but to do that, would be a much greater expense to the city than maybe, helping a customer replace a line in the yard or something that leaks. So that's not the approach now, is to take them all out.
But isn't it a requirement for the check valve to be there?
Yes, that's why
We
we,
can't remove it. That's
Protecting
the law.
right.
That was the last meeting that I had with Henrietta, and that's what I was telling her.
But you can't remove them. Okay, that's the law for them. It's something you have to do.
I would recommend that, or I will be asking that we keep on top of this situation and the updates, not go months without an update or anything. And Councilman, Martinez, or
I have a question about on the well.
get with Henrietta, Mrs. Turner, and with M&S, and that way, on our next meeting, which is scheduled for the 14th of February, we could have an update of what we can do as a community to help out. Mr. Minutes, hold on 1 second. We have a citizen who had a comment he's been asking for about 10 minutes.
Yes, I have a question. How about if I have a expansion tank already installed in my house at the water?
You have one? You have the little relief valve on the side of your water heater, the little lever?
Well, I got that, but I also have an expansion tank in the line, so when the water span, the air in it compensate for expansion.
Right. Did you have a problem when your meter was replaced?
No.
You see, and that's the point of my drawing it there, is that it's the older heaters that don't have that and don't have the pressure relief valve. That's where the problem is occurring, the houses with those old heaters. You're lucky.
Well, no, and I know about this because, even when the house was built, they were only 2 years old. The
Okay.
plumber said, you don't need a expansion tank, it's too large. So we're gonna put a expansion tank in there because I'm paying for
Right,
it.
right.
Because I know what can happen when the water span, you put pressure on it, if the valve are closed, you don't have to check out of the other end and push the water into the system. So if I have contaminated my water, that water goes into the neighbors next door and
And that's why the state requires that check out there.
regardless of it, so I don't really need a backflow for that,
You do, because it's required.
because it's required.
Right. But because you have the state requirement in valve, you won't have a problem.
You don't have a problem.
That the backflow is going to be created.
No problem, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jimenez, and then there's a couple of citizens that, hold on, let him.
But not only because it's a an old water heater, you're gonna have that problem. The problem is that they're not opening the valves and releasing that pressure. All that air is going directly to the water heater and making that happen.
Right, I
Because
agree.
if they blend it the way they're supposed to, you wouldn't be having that problem, whether it's an old water heater or a new one.
Right, and that goes back to the issue about the hangers and hanging the hanger and then, changing the meter out,
Well,
so.
if I'm not mistaken, when I saw my hanger, it didn't tell us to do any of that.
It didn't?
Fortunately, my husband knew how to, did that, but for any of us, and I have another citizen that wanted to, two of them actually. Yeah, Mr.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
You're saying that pressure relief valve will take care of the problem?
I'm gonna make sure that we're talking about the same
That little
thing.
thing that you.
It
That
should-
depends
If it's functioning
Does it
properly.
happen by itself, or does somebody have to go and put it up?
No, the whole purpose of that, when pressure builds up in your water heater, it pushes it out. And that's why it's recommended that you test it once a year or once every 6
Yes,
months
okay.
to make sure that it's still functioning
But
properly.
it'll do it itself,
Mhm.
we don't have to tell them. to
Right,
do it.
and then you have a drain line that goes outside, that's all that water.
Thank you. And I had another question right there.
And I'm a realtor, I deal a lot with that in selling homes. In San Antonio with like new construction and stuff, they don't have the backflow meters at the meter, the backflow preventer at the meter.
Okay.
So it's a requirement for the USDA funding that they've got.
No, it's a TCEQ requirement if the city doesn't have a cross-connection control program in place.
Okay.
And there are a few requirements in the service agreement for cross-connection control, but there's not an approved program in place,
Okay.
which requires yearly inspections and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's why that's not
Well, it's
required.
mainly just required for Floresville because of their plumbing, the way they have the water system, it's not for other.
Well, no, it's a requirement statewide if that program's not in place. And Floresville doesn't have an official program approved in place for cross-connection control.
And that little check valve is a lot cheaper than that cross-connection program for everybody.
Well, and I appreciate all this information because we're being inundated with questions and complaints. We're not through with it yet. This is just a presentation for the council members tonight. I have made a suggestion if you'd like to do it. Are there any other questions?
I just have a comment. I agree with your suggestion. I think it's a good idea. And I think bottom line, the city, we just want more communication. The citizens want to know what to expect. We need to know what to expect so we can answer questions.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly. So for the common, for most of us, we didn't know that. We know to do that.
What to tell them.
Yeah, what to tell them. So I think the presentation was very informative to all of us, and council knows what we need to do, and we will be in communication with Henrietta and yourselves, and we'll keep forward with this, so the citizens can.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Jimenez, did you have another question, or?
No, mine was on the wells.
Okay.
On
Let's go.
the Plaza well, what was the total for that? How much was
The
it?
dollar amount,
Yes.
600,000 to drill
What
the well.
consists of the 2.4 million?
Excuse me? Oh, what's in that number? That amount, 600,000 for the well. I believe the interconnect project was 500 or 600,000, both pieces of it. The rehabilitation of the B Street well, worst case was, no, I think it's a little higher. 400 or 500, but again, that's worst case.
Okay.
The ground storage
It's
tank.
gonna be 400,000 or 500,000, and brand new one is 600,000.
What we have to do-
How would we rehab something?
Booster pump stations in there,
B Street?
and we have a temporary station.
Oh, right, there's a temporary station when we take B Street down. And then also, then there's all kinds of administrative costs and loan closing costs, those front-end administrative costs that I can't really give you a great estimate on right now, but that's what's included in that number.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Okay, we will be, and you know that I will keep
Absolutely,
asking a lot of questions and asking for a lot of presentations. Okay, thank you. Now, we're gonna move on
Thank
to
you.
another fun topic in town, is 2019 street maintenance program.
Mayor, City Council, I'm Tom Turk, I'm with M&S Engineering. Henrietta asked me to come tonight and give you a briefing on our 2019 street maintenance program. I believe she passed out some materials to you a week or two ago at your workshop. This presentation is a variation of what you got a week or two ago. So if it looks familiar, that's why. What we have done is we did an assessment of your street condition back in 2011, 2012, when we did the city's master plan. And so based on that street assessment and our current observations of conditions around the city, we're bringing to you a list of what I would call candidate projects that should be considered for street maintenance this coming year. The type of maintenance we want to do falls into three categories. One is mill and overlay, another one is replace in place, and then full reconstruction. And I'm going to go through all three of those. And then we'll get to the last slide, and I'll advise you to how much money you have, and hopefully we can move forward and try to select some projects. The first category of work is mill and overlay. And this is for streets that are still in fairly good condition, but the asphalt surface is worn or cracking. And what happens is we'll come in and we'll actually mill and remove the asphalt. We'll fix any base failures, come in with a tack coat, and we'll, come in with a new layer of asphalt. It's about 1.5 inches thick. There's a real good picture there in the center, kind of the before and after. When that asphalt is laid, it's nice and it's smooth. It's unlike the seal coats we have done in the past. This is a very smooth asphalt. You'll enjoy driving on it. And the construction doesn't really take that long. Once that asphalt is down, you can actually drive on it immediately. So it's contractor can get into an area, do his construction and get out fairly quickly.
Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
You're saying the contractor's gonna do this?
We have not discussed any approaches as far as who's going to
Because
perform the work.
I believe,
It can be done either way.
I believe the city is gonna try to tackle these streets right now, being that don't have a lot of funding.
Well, let's go through the presentation, and then as a council, we can decide when the city's gonna do it, and if we get it on the
Next slide. These are the candidate streets around town that I would consider for mill and overlay. I'm not going to go through every one of them. In the back of your handout, did they have the handout?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yes.
The last page in your handout is an overall city map with all of these streets plotted on there so you can see where they are. They're color coded. I believe the yellow is the mill and overlay streets. And then blue is the replace in place. I think there's one reconstruction. So that's the color code. Next slide. All right, the next type of construction is what I call replace in place. And this is for streets that are in pretty bad shape, and there really aren't any other feasible rehabilitation methods left. What a contractor will do is come in, he'll excavate out the existing asphalt, he'll remove the existing base material, and then he'll come back in with new base material and compact it and brand new asphalt. And that street is basically reconstructed back to its original position, both horizontally and vertically. So the street will look the same, except that it's new. And we've got a handful of candidate streets for replace in place, 3 or 4 streets there. The next category is total reconstruction. We have one street that should be considered for that, and that's Railroad over by the school. This particular street gets a lot of traffic, a lot of bus traffic. It also has drainage problems. It's wet because of the watering at the school grounds. And obviously the pavement's in very bad shape. But this needs to be reconstructed, new grades, new curb lines. We got to fix some drainage. So this is a very good candidate for reconstruction. We're going to have to work with the school district on what exactly we reconstruct, because not only do you have the street, but you have some off-street parking involved. I think the chamber's office is there. Yeah, so it's going to have to be some coordination on what exactly gets reconstructed. We try to be fairly conservative in our estimate to account for some of those things, but we'll have to fine tune that during design if it ever goes there. As I understand it, today there's about just short of $900,000 in your street fund. That's money that you collect from sales tax. I believe you collect somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $400,000 a year, a little more than $100,000 every quarter. We're right around $900,000 now. If we started today, we would probably go to construction sometime in the summer. And by then, you ought to have about $1 million to work with.
On your estimates of these projects, is that with using a contractor, or is that just materials?
This is contractor prices, so it would be total project. It'd be the labor, the material, the equipment,